Hello and welcome to my podcast on radical self-love, an Ayurvedic perspective on healing body and mind. My name is Sandra Hayes and I'm a Vedic practitioner, meaning I utilize Ayurveda, yoga and Vedic astrology as well as transformational creativity to help you become a conscious creator of your own life, health and well-being. For more information and for access to my online learning platform, The Little School of Happiness, please go to www.sandrahayes.eu. So in the last episode, I've been talking about some of the causes of disease, especially those that we usually don't really get to talk about, like karmic causes, causes of, genetics maybe that we can't really influence a lot. We can influence them too, but maybe not 100%. We can't always avoid getting sick, even if we live a really healthy life. The Vasant Lad's book on clinical assessment actually lists 32 causes of disease, and some of them are external, like maybe we have an accident or experience a trauma, or there is pollution, and some of them are internal, like our own belief system and our own unconscious conditionings that can lead to manifesting disease. And one of the biggest causes of disease, of course, is our own actions, our own decisions that we make, and our inability sometimes to listen to the body, to trust the body as well, and to listen to the body and its messages, and actually act accordingly. And this is really why I believe that even more important than learning about nutrition or learning a healthy lifestyle is, first of all, learning to actually trust your own body and have a really good relationship with your own body, to really love one's own body. Because when we do that, then everything else falls into place. Then usually we tend to want to treat the body really well. We tend to feel joy in eating healthy and, doing lovely and wonderful things for our body that will do our body real good. If we don't have that really good relationship to our body, then we tend to often make the wrong decisions because we listen more to the ego mind that simply just wants things right now and wants to have good experiences that please the ego mind, not so much that please the body. However, today I would like to talk about the actual development of disease. What happens in the body when disease manifests, or before disease manifests. In Ayurveda, there is a concept called samprapti. It's the pathway of disease. And this is a really interesting one to me because I found this always very fascinating because in Western medicine, when we develop symptoms, that is stage 1 of a disease. However, in Ayurveda, this is already stage 4. Ayurveda tends to look at the development of disease much earlier. So in Ayurveda, stage 1 is the accumulation of a dosha. And what does that mean? So, of course, we look at a dosha as in what quality does that dosha have. So for Vata, that means mainly dryness and lightness. If there's an accumulation of dryness, that's dehydration. If there is an accumulation of lightness, that is a lack of substance, whether it's in the mind or in the body. Kapha, the main qualities of kapha is cold and heaviness and a lack of mobility. So there is stagnation happening in the body, an accumulation of something that is cold and heavy, like an accumulation of undigested food substances in the body, for example, cholesterol or sugar. And for pitta is acidic and hot. So an accumulation of heat and acid in the body, when the body becomes acidic, that is the first stage of the development of a disease. So, for example, if we eat too much heavy food, then of course kapha accumulates. Or if we drink too much alcohol or eat meat or spicy food, then pitta accumulates. We become acidic. Or too much stress and not enough water and nutrients, then of course vata accumulates. We become dehydrated. And at this stage, our body's intelligence always tries to regulate itself. It always tries to bring itself back into balance again. For example, if we feel that we've been eating too much, if we all know the experience of having a Christmas dinner. After the Christmas dinner, we just don't feel like eating. After being stuffed with food, we lose our appetite for some time. And that's the body's natural reaction. It's literally a craving to fast. If we get cold, then we feel like we need to move, or we keep warm in some way. If we feel that we get too hot or too acidic, we crave for cooling down. And often we crave for pitta cooling things like bitter herbs or sweet fruit, or a cooling environment. And if we listen to the body, we are well able to balance that accumulation out again, if we listen to the body straight away. But if we don't, if we keep, eating heavy food, even though our body is telling us it's already too much, or if we, we dry out, we have more and more stress, because the thing is, when we get stressed out, our body needs more nutrients and more water. And if we don't give it more water than usual, then it will very likely dehydrate. So that's why vata generally is increased when we are under stress. Unfortunately, it's usually the opposite that we do when we are under stress, or when our life is a little bit out of control. Maybe we are moving a lot, or we are in the middle of a breakup, or whatever it is. We tend to not look after ourselves as much, and we forget to drink, but it's exactly that which we should do more of. Because if we don't, then the next stage 2, is the provocation of the dosha. So if we don't listen to our body, if we don't listen to our own inner wisdom, then we might feel, for example, when we feel tired, but we don't go to sleep, we keep ourselves awake, and we have to watch another movie or another episode of some series that we're addicted to at the moment. Or we have no appetite, but we keep on eating anyway, just because other people are eating, or because it just tastes nice, or we are stressed, but we keep on pushing through, even though, we know we're stressed, we know it's getting too much, but we're, over exercising, or we're working even more. Then we are literally provoking that dosha. And not listening to the body is really a very big cause for disease, because at that stage we can still do something. It's relatively easy to balance the body out again. And actually suppressing the body's natural urges is also listed as one of the greatest causes for disease. And that means, for example, not eating even though we are really hungry, or eating when we're not hungry, when we don't have appetite, while the body's natural urge would be to fast. Or not going to the toilet when we have to, not moving when our body needs movement, or not resting when we need to rest, not crying when we need to cry. That is a really big one as well. All of these things, they're natural urges of the body. And if we suppress them, then we really aggravate that dosha in us. And of course, we really have to make a distinction here between the body's inner wisdom and between an addiction. Because when we are craving, for example, a cigarette, that is not a body's natural urge, that is an addiction. And also, of course, if we crave sugar or, chocolate bars or something, that is not a body's natural urge. That is an addiction, very likely. An addiction that we can question, of course. We can, think about why are we craving the sweet taste? Because if it is the sweet taste, then we can satisfy that sweet taste in plenty of other ways by eating some fruit, some sweet fruit, or even some carbohydrates. Sometimes it is also an urge to cool the body down, and we can do that often by simply drinking a glass of water. So we have to learn really to distinguish between the body's intelligence and the body's addictions. And we can only do that over time by really getting to know our body well and by listening to our body. And if we don't do that, if we still ignore the body's messages and we keep provoking the dosha more and more, then stage 3 of that development is the spreading of that dosha. So that means, usually the dosha is localized. It's vata usually happens in the colon. It gives us, the dryness of vata. It gives us bloating or constipation. And now that it's beginning to spread, it is starting to move around the body through the blood. So dehydration in the blood, that means the blood becomes thicker. So the effect is circulation is disturbed as well. Maybe we'll get cold hands and feet. Maybe our heart rate will be increased. Our energy will definitely be decreased. We might feel tired a lot. We might also feel grumpy a lot of the time because it affects our mood as well. Maybe sometimes the face might flush easily because the circulation tries to stick, go to the brain where it's needed most. We also might feel dizzy when we get up, or, even feel it on the skin, have a little bit of dry skin. So that is a sign for the dosha spreading through the body. And for pitta too, we might, feel the acid literally like a vessel that is overflowing when we get acid reflux or heartburn. Maybe even we start developing a rash, and our emotions as well, pitta emotions. We might feel angry and impatient and, have a little bit of a, righteous anger, as it is common for pitta people who are out of balance. And also for kapha might accumulate as mucus in the lungs and sinuses, and we might produce more mucus than usually, or maybe we feel cold all the time. Maybe we feel heavy. Maybe we start to feel like, we're putting on a little bit of weight. Our metabolism is a little bit slower. So these are all pre-symptoms. They're not really manifested yet. Very soon, if we still don't manage to balance the dosha out, it will begin to settle somewhere. And it usually settles wherever in the body there is a weak spot. And that means where a particular tissue's metabolism isn't strong enough to keep the dosha out. So that all depends on how well our Agni, our digestive fire on a cellular level, is working. And that might be different, of course, for everyone. So, for example, for vata, it could be that the dryness begins to lodge in the joints and you start to experience cracking joints and stiffness. Or for pitta, it might lodge in the skin because pitta sits in the skin as well, and it might cause eczema or mouth sores or a little bit of acne. And then kapha collecting in the fat tissue, and we experience more weight gain or water retention as well, or maybe an accumulation of blood sugar or cholesterol. And then if we still don't manage to balance out our imbalances, if we still don't manage to listen to the body and make some changes, then we are entering stage 5, and that is the manifestation of actual symptoms. That is the stage where if we went to the doctor might diagnose some sort of disorder or disease in its early stages. It's the infestation of the dosha into the cell tissue. So that means we experience things like painful joints, for example, or arthritis for vata. or some kind of congestion of the tissue cells for kapha, something like swelling, for example. And then again, if we don't do something here, then it develops further and further. And up to this point, it is still possible to do something about it, because, of course, the earlier the stage, the easier we can create balance again in the body. The longer we wait, the more difficult it will get. But if we wait as long as this, if we then enter stage 6, it will get quite difficult to reverse some of the damage, because there will be some kind of damage, because at this stage, the dosha is so deeply manifested in the tissue cells that the actual cell structure has been damaged. For example, in if it's the vata example, if you have you're developing arthritis at this stage, there might be deformities already in the hands and the joints, or maybe for pitta, the inflammation in the body might have already caused a real damage to the tissue cells. Just one example, let's say pitta, which, by the way, also can begin as suppressed anger, suppressed emotions, to cause inflammation in the body. And if that, then on top of that, we might, eat too much meat or too much, too much hot spices or whatever it is, and we don't do anything about it. So then pitta will increase, it will be aggravated, it will be spread throughout the body. It will then localize into weak tissue. If, for example, that weak tissue cell is the heart, and that also can have emotional causes. Why is that, tissue, the agni, the metabolism, the processing of the heart, why is that weak? Maybe there was a emotional cause as well, a heartbreak or some sort of emotional stress. So the inflammation might settle in the heart and cause something like endocarditis, which is an inflammation of the heart valves. And then, if it enters stage 6, the heart valves might be actually damaged, and there is nothing else to do but surgery. And, there's many such examples, but important is also that the subtle cause for it, the original cause, can also be emotional, can be emotional trauma, or it can be genetics or karma or other things that, we've discussed before. But the development of the disease then is always the same. And, we have to just listen to the body and address the imbalance and do something about it. And it's important also to recognize that what we can do about it is not always a physical change that we have to make. It's not always only a dietary change or a lifestyle change, although, that is very important. And sometimes it's the first step that we have to take. But the further on, we get, the more important it becomes to also address the emotional causes of diseases. And and for kapha, for example, it could be that the weight gain is developed so far that we really have, obesity, actual pathological obesity. And of course, there is, this expression can be very different for everyone. It depends on so many individual factors. It depends on what is my prakriti, what is my vikriti. We've discussed this before. My prakriti is my actual nature, my genetic nature. And how do I, treat that knowledge? So it's really important to actually get to know ourselves really well. If I, for example, in my own personal example, I know that I am mainly a kapha person, physically, genetically, and knowing that gives me the knowledge that I need in order to prevent developing diabetes, because I know then that that's the kind of thing I have to watch out for. If I stick to a mainly kapha pacifying diet, then I'm not as likely to develop diabetes. And it, It depends on many factors, of course. And also, there can be more than one dosha involved. And in fact, for many of our most common diseases nowadays, all three doshas are involved. Cancer, for example, all three doshas are involved. Diabetes 2, for example, it's, of course, on first sight, it's clearly a kapha disease because of its accumulative nature, because, something accumulates in the body, sugar accumulates in the body, but also vata is involved because, the cell is not able to produce enough insulin, or it doesn't react properly to the insulin. Actually, according to Ayurveda, diabetes develops over years, 3 to 5 years, sometimes maybe faster depending on the circumstances. But, this is the samprapti, this is the pathway of the disease taking that long. So really, there is actually plenty of time to recognize the first symptoms and avoid it from getting, prevent it from getting worse. So to avoid accumulation and aggravation in the first place, it's of course really important to recognize your own dosha to begin with, to have a little bit of a knowledge of who are you really, what is your nature. And Ayurveda really is a really good way to start with that. It's, of course, it's a journey to really get to know yourself is a practice. And one of the reasons why we do daily yoga practice, one of the main reasons why I do a daily yoga practice is not just to, stay in good shape or to remain flexible or strong, but actually to really have quality time with my body, to spend quality time with my body every single day, to really pay attention every single day for amount of time. How does my body feel in different positions? How is my breath in all these different positions? And this is really important as well, because you really do develop a really deep relationship with your body. And that is important. You can, of course, also, if you go to my website, sandrahayes.eu, on the Ayurveda page, you will find a dosha quiz. That is also a good start to just reflect a little bit on who are you, what are you like, and find out what your dosha is. And then you can, maybe make adjustments, and maybe you have some revelations as well. Maybe you see that, for example, in Ireland, I know quite a few people going sea swimming every week, summer and winter, which is meant to be really healthy, really good for your immunity, really good for your health. And I agree, for many people, I agree. If you're a healthy pitta type, this is great, but if you are a kapha type, for example, then the cold, especially in the winter, it might not do you any good at all. It might cause your mucus to increase. And if you also at the same time eat a lot of cold salads or juices or live on a raw vegan diet, then you really could do more damage than good if you're not the type for it. For other people, it might be a great thing to do. But most diseases, actually, all diseases begin with a dosha accumulation, but most diseases begin with a vata accumulation. Vata, according to Ayurveda, is really the dosha that is easiest to influence, easiest to get out of balance, because of course it's light, it's subtle, its elements are space and air, so it is very easy to get out of balance, and is the beginning of many diseases. So it's said in Ayurveda that vata causes about 80 diseases, pitta 40, and kapha 20. And if we look at vata for a moment, a little bit more, vata, the main quality of vata is dryness. So vata causes mainly dehydration. And I do really believe that dehydration is the underlying cause for many, many disorders, also mental health disorders. Because if we are dehydrated on a cellular level, the cell membrane can't function properly. And so we can't really, absorb nutrients. We can't really, produce the amount of energy in the cell that we need. We can't eliminate waste enough. So a lot of problems begin with dehydration. So we really have to watch out for that. You can watch out also for the signs of dehydration. And first of all, of course, if you're thirsty, if you're actually thirsty, you're already dehydrated, because that really is a sign the body is giving you. It's really important now that you drink. Also, things like, do you get dizzy when you get up, or do you have cold hands and feet because circulation, the blood gets thick, circulation isn't as good. The blood will also go to the brain first, so maybe you might have flushed face sometimes. You might even feel numbness and tingling in your hands or feet, just signs of, bad circulation. Your heart rate might increase. You might feel moody and grumpy and, angry or irritated. You might not be able to sleep very well. Maybe you have bloating or constipation, and also the nervous system might react, because healthy nervous tissue cells need to be well hydrated to function. So you might feel more nervous than usual, or anxious easily, or things like that. Also, you might feel a stiffness in your joints, because when the fascia dries out, then movement also becomes more difficult. It becomes more painful and, stiff. And also we have to watch our circumstances. We already know that any amount of stress will cause our body to need more water, more nutrients and more water. And knowing that, we can adjust accordingly, because we know when we have stress, and stress means any kind of stress, emotional stress. If you're going through something emotionally, whatever it is, if we are going through something physically, if we have to work hard, or if we exercise a lot, and every exercise is a stress on the body. And it doesn't mean that it's bad. We need certain stresses on the body as well. We need certain stresses on the mind as well, but we have to react to them. So if you're, running a marathon, you wouldn't dream of not drinking all day. So it's the same with any other stress that we might have in life. Mental stress also, if we need, whatever, to process things a lot, or if we carry trauma from childhood or from past events, then also that's all of those things are signs that we need to hydrate more than usually. And how we do that is, well, for one, we need to drink clean water, because our cells will take in whatever it is, whatever quality the water is, so it will take in the toxins in the water as well. So if you're living in Ireland, and probably the UK as well, I'm not sure in other countries, check your tap water, because sometimes there are a lot of additives added to the water. And in that case, you need to filter the water really well. So in some countries, in Germany here where I live, it's one of the things that I really love about this place is that the tap water is clean. It comes from the mountains. And you can actually pretty much drink it straight from the tap in most places. But do check wherever you live. And then what I like to do, what I think is really important, and just that one thing could make a really big difference to you as well. First thing when you get up, drink a large glass of water. Well, I personally like to do my oral hygiene first. So I go and brush my teeth and clean my tongue and rinse my mouth. And then I drink a large glass of water, usually warm water. Warm water is better absorbed than ice cold water. Is not, according to Ayurveda anyway. You shouldn't eat or drink ice cold things, apart from when you're medicinally treating heat, or treating symptoms of overheating. But it's great to have room temperature water or warm water, and it's a really good idea to put a little squeeze of lime or lemon in it, or a few slices of ginger, which just adds a little bit of nutrients to the water, which makes it, again, easier to absorb. Also really important is to take in water from food. It's the best water to absorb is the water that is actually naturally in fruits and vegetables. And when you eat also, it's really good to eat soups and stews and, moist kind of foods. So maybe if you're eating out for lunch, rather than choosing a sandwich, it's maybe better to have a soup or a stew. And you can also add then herbs and spices to your food to add minerals, because it's really good if the water contains minerals for it to be absorbed. So add even a tiny, very, very small pinch of salt, but it has to be good salt, like good quality sea salt, natural sea salt, or Himalayan rock salt, rather than simple table salt, because usually that is that contains two minerals, sodium and chloride, and whereas sea salt and Himalayan salt, they contain at least 80 or even more different types of minerals, and that of course makes a big difference. So while table salt can cause high blood pressure, sea salt much less so. And in fact, given you're not overdoing it, sea salt can help level, or also Himalayan rock salt, probably even better, helps to level out the pH of your body, and it helps, the mucus, especially if you're kapha. And so, that's a piece of advice that I think, probably might make a very big difference to you if you just have that large glass of water first thing in the morning, preferably warm and with a little bit of nutrients in it. And then also what I like to do is to prepare a large flask of hot water, especially in the winter, with a few slices of ginger in it or some lime or lemon juice, and then just drink that throughout the day. Zip it slowly. In the summer, maybe a big jug of room temperature water, also with lime or lemon. And if it gets really, really hot, I do also like a little bit of cold water, but, just be careful with that. And then, prepare your meals with plenty of water. Eat soups and stews, eat, vegetables. And also another thing that makes a big difference to your hydration, because if the body is hydrated, it doesn't get enough water, it will next turn to fat. And fat is also really important for our healthy cell membranes, so that they even, be able to take in nutrients properly. So we can't underestimate the importance of good quality fats as well, especially for Vata. And that's why it is always recommended for Vata to eat healthy fats as well, because it's so much needed to, balance out the function of the cell membranes, especially nervous tissue cell membranes, which can, if they're brittle and, not working properly, they can do, a lot of damage especially for Vata people. And a good fat to use, obviously, in Ayurveda is always ghee. That's always recommended. So if you just use a small amount of ghee and put it over your food. But another really good way of taking in healthy fats is actually through the skin as a massage. And this is also why massage in Ayurveda is so highly valued, because it contributes a lot to our internal health, internal cellular health, and to the nervous system. And, even in combination with the manual, stress that we put on the cells, it's like, almost breaking down the kind of, hardened ground substance of the fascia. And so it can hydrate again. So that is something that is very helpful for you to do regular, if possible, daily self-massage. And every now and then, if you can, go and find a good Ayurvedic massage therapist And the other days, just, do yourself something good, massage yourself, sit even while you're watching a movie or something, massage your head, massage your feet, your arms, your legs, with a good oil. If you can, eat the oil, that's as a general rule. If the oil is good enough to eat, then it's good enough for the skin. So those are my tips for you, my advice for you. I hope it helps you and it inspires you to look after your health properly before anything might develop, not out of fear of anything developing, but simply out of love for your body. That's always important to me. Anything, has to be done simply out of love for the body. And then we will all be fine. And, we can all do our best to stay hydrated and balanced and enjoy it at the same time. You were listening to a podcast on radical self-love, an Ayurvedic perspective of body and mind by Sandra Hayes and the Little School of Happiness. For more information and offers, go to www.sandrahayes.eu.